there everyone, welcome back to James Redmond TV. Today we are talking about not one but two Dutch people. The Dutch people in question is, one goes by the name of Ryan Gravenberch and the second guy goes by the name of Cody Gakpo. One's going to be a discussion, one's going to be a little bit of a sort of question about one of the other players. So recently we've been linked with Thuram, Gabri Veiga and all these other players. Gravenberch is somebody who has been very minimally mentioned in comparison to the rest. Now, we know that there's disputes going on there with him and Bayern Munich. The thing that I'm going to bring up is that obviously there's a certain date that he's going to let Bayern Munich know, and he's going to have that conversation with Tuchel, whether or not he is a part of his plans, because all he wants is game time. If Tuchel comes back to him after international break, which will be very soon because Netherlands can't stop losing a game, they're going to have the conversation, and I think when Tuchel lets him know, okay, you're a part of my plans, or maybe not, that is when he'll determine if he's going to move, and then if he's going to move, where is he going to go? And I think that's what Liverpool are holding out on as well, because I don't think Gravenberch should be a lot of money. So that's why maybe we're not jumping on the rushing on Thuram or Kone or whatever. But guys, I'm not going to lie. The more I've learned about all the players, I'm starting to prioritise wanting Kone above all the other midfielders. But the other guys aren't bad as well. And I don't mind Gravenberch. I think Gravenberch is good. I just think he's slightly unproven at the top level. I do think he has potential. But I do think Kone is somebody with that first, in the Bundesliga, he was great. He's a very sound technical player. And he's versatile. He can do a bit of box to box. And I really do feel like that's something that we've lacked. Because he still possesses the technical side. So I feel like he has more of the credentials to suit this Liverpool team. And Gravenberch can maybe be another option, because let's be honest, we still need two midfielders as opposed to just one. So I wanted to start off the video talking about Gravenberch, because I feel like that's a midfielder that just has not been talked about enough, at least by myself. Maybe other content creators have maximised the revenue on the Gravenberch news. I didn't really touch on it because I didn't see much that implied heavy interest. But then I didn't put two and two together about the situation at Bayern. And what is today's news is not news in 2-3 weeks' time. Therefore, you might see interest significantly increase, because it seems like other clubs around the Premier League aren't identifying that type of midfielder. Maybe they think of it from what I am sceptical about, is he proven enough? And that's why if we was to buy him, hopefully it'd be for a cheap price, around 20 million. I mean, didn't he go to buy him for 20 million? And if that's the case, he hasn't done nothing to warrant to be any more expensive. So anything more than that, I don't think would be extremely smart, unless you were confident he was going to fit your system. And then let me know, out of all the options we've got, Veiga, Thuram, Kone, and then now Gravenberch, how do you prioritise? Let me know in the comments, 1 to 4, who's your number 1 target, who's your number 4 target? So anyway, moving on from one Dutch player to another, teammate transition, Cody Gakpo. I don't think people are talking about how he has quite transformed Liverpool's season. Hear me out. I don't think people understand where we was in January. In January, we was talking about not even having a breath of hope for the Europa Conference League. Crazy settings for the fact that we were chasing a quadruple a season before. And yes, it's extremely embarrassing and quite pathetic. But Cody Gakpo, since he came in, this was the guy who was going to be the next 007. Remember these headlines, chat? Remember the headline? He was going to be the next Jadon Sancho, and Cody Gakpo was going to be overrated. And obviously he was linked with Manchester United. It was very evident that was the type of player that Ten Hag was looking for. And, since the acquisition of, what I'd like to call, the Berbatov regen in Weghorst was one of those individuals who, although, a sound player, a good player for Accrington Stanley, a very mediocre footballer when it comes to the highest level of the Premier League. And I do think it interrupted Man United's flow in the second part of the season when he was added into the team. Not that he can't do nothing good, but let's be honest, he's just not the standard. He was playing for Burnley a season before. Either way, I think Gakpo was there to do that role. We then got the player. He now is in our team, and ever since he came in our team, he significantly improved it. And what I'm trying to say, even in the last 10 games, it was our best winning streak. I think we got a 7 or 8 game win streak. He was huge in all those games. The performance, the little chip against Manchester United, truly beautiful, beautiful stuff. Do you remember, it was a Coutinho's chip against Man United? It really reminded me of that. And I'd argue it was even a tighter angle and significantly more difficult. So Cody Gakpo has massively impressed me. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he was, 38 million pounds. He has been absolutely class since he's come into the team. And it really hasn't disappointed. He's not even a 10 out of 10 technically. He's just good enough technically. but it's his IQ. It's people from that country, honestly. The Netherlands do develop some very intelligent footballers. You know, I'm just thinking of Schneider right now as I'm talking, and then even Robin van Persie and all these other players who, Iron Robin, who, you know, it weren't just, you know, the physical attributes, it was the way they read the game. You know, Iron Robin with his set pieces. It's one of those countries. Cody Gakpo, you wouldn't look at him and say he's the best finisher or the best dribbler or he's the quickest or the strongest or any of these things. But he does all of them good. And then he puts them really well together and he knows when to use his tools and his weapons. When you know how to use your weapons, that's much more efficient. Because if you give me a gun, I've never used a gun. I live in Britain. We don't do guns. Well, actually, I've done BB guns and I've learned how to shoot a gun, but it's not been a real gun. So if you gave me a gun and I haven't done practice in recent time, I'm probably not going to be so efficient. I'm not going to know how to use it. So I can have the same tools as you. But how do you know how to use yours? Gakpo knows how to use his, and it's why he probably got such high numbers in the Netherlands, because he knew how to maximise and find space. His positioning is great, and also the reason why he was good on assists too is because he knows how to find the right man. He knows where to be before the goal. These are qualities that people don't quite analyse, but if you do just look at a player for the technical ability solely, you won't notice these things. So I'm not trying to overrate him. I'm just saying he changed our season. And it weren't hard. You know, if you're a good enough footballer, we were 10th. You know what I mean? We could only get better. But Gakpo is one of those players going into next season. I'd love to see him in the centre of the park. I think he really does suit that sort of false number 9 striker. I think he can even get more goals than Bobby Firmino. Really impressed by that signing, and I don't think people are talking about enough how influential he could be going into next season. Genuinely, in the second half of the year. You know, Alisson's obviously the standout man always, but can you name me a better and more consistent outfield player than Gakpo? You might be able to find somebody. I'm genuinely, maybe Salah, but from an all-round standpoint, you know, I do believe that Gakpo significantly not only improved the team, but, you know, just the goals that he added and whatnot. He was just a good player. And I wanted to give him that limelight because I haven't spoke about Gakpo enough. But I came to a realisation on recent streams that ever since we got back Gakpo, we've only gone up and up and up and up and up. And now if we can build around him, well, wow, what's that going to prosper? You know what I mean? Imagine if we have another player like Bobby Firmino who can still find the space and stuff like this, but then amplify on the goals as well. And I think he scored 7, 8, 9 goals last season. Maybe it was less. Maybe it was about 7 goals. But I still think that's impressive for the fact that he was still creating a lot. And the team's goals increased when Gakpo came in. This is one thing I always said about Núñez, is that, yes, he can get a lot of goals himself, and 16 goal contributions isn't bad, but will it take away from the overall team? And you noticed it did, because Núñez was getting the majority of the chances, and even if he scored one of them, you'd miss 5. So I'm not slating Núñez, I'm just saying now that you've got a player who isn't looking to have that excessive volume of chances, but when he does get a chance, he knows when to finish, and that's why he mostly scores and has a, you know, fairly decent conversion rate. Gakpo's that type of player, and I think that's why we saw the goals go up, the points go up, the wins increase, and then now it's just who do you play on the left, because I do think Gakpo solidified that middle position. Now who do you play on the left, because Jota can play there. Can he do it to the best? Who knows, but he can still play there. Then you've got Diaz, and then now you've got Núñez, who I think has impressed a lot of people on the left. And then is there a possibility for any of those guys to play on the right if Salah ever needs to have a drop of a game, you know what I mean? Because we've got no other right wingers, but we've got loads of options for the left-hand side. Even Gakpo can play on the left-hand side, really, but I like him down the centre. He looks really good there. So these are the questions that you've got to raise. Ideally, next season, what I want to see from get-go is Salah, Gakpo and Diaz. That's what I want to see from get-go. I feel like that was when we were playing our best football last season, was when Núñez will come off the bench and then he'd add a different element to the game, but you start off with that ability of Diaz, Gakpo and Salah, because that's a very high potential front three for me. Diaz I still need to see more of, but he's still shown good signs, and there's been times where he looks like the standout player. He looks like a confidence player, Diaz. You know, he's someone who, you know, people thought Núñez was a confidence player. I think he beams confidence. Diaz, he's someone who seems a little bit more quiet, but when the fans start cheering him on, that's when he starts to do the fun stuff, but also the efficient stuff. Like, I'll never forget his performance against Everton, you know, when Origi scored, and he done that little touch on the inside of his foot. I think he got an assist that game. Might have scored. I don't think he scored, but he was great performing in that game anyway. And again, when he came in from the January window that season, the team significantly improved, the same way Gakpo done the same thing. So I really hope Diaz can stay fit, Gakpo can stay fit, because I think that has potential to not only, you know, it's going to always be hard to surpass the Mane, Firmino and Salah trio, but even if you can become 90% as good as them, 80% as good as them, half as good as them, you've got a good front three. You know, especially when you compare them to the peak. So Let me know in the comments down below. Do we need to give Gakpo more flowers, or is it just a me thing? Guys, thank you for watching this video. This has been the Dutch edition. By the way, how poor has Virgil van Dijk been in over recent games? I'm praying, chat. Like, I'm really hoping that man can find his form. It'd be a big shame that, you know, someone of his quality, his potential, what he was leading to when he was, you know, top 3 Ballon d'Or and all this stuff, you know, be a big shame. This is how it ends. The Pickford's injury and then not quite being able to find your feet. I don't know, it's just his decision making seems a little bit off. So I'm really hoping when we do make these new additions, we find our feet, we create a better system, it adheres to him, and it, you know, leads to less mistakes, let's say. So let's see. But up the Reds. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in a bizzle. God bless.